The grand ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and the laughter of the wealthy. Amara moved quietly among them, carrying a silver tray of champagne glasses. To them, she was invisible, just another servant in a black uniform. Then the glass slipped. It shattered across the marble floor, and the sound cut through the music like a knife. The room fell silent, then erupted in cruel laughter. "Look at the clumsy maid. Get down and clean it up." They forced her to kneel. They made her pick up the broken pieces with her bare hands while they watched and mocked. She showed no tears, spoke no words. But if you had looked into her eyes at that moment, you would have seen something dangerous awaken. While she knelt there, her gaze tracked something else, a guarded hallway no one else was watching. The laughter echoed around her, but Amara's mind was already moving, calculating every detail. She watched the security guards shift positions. She memorized their patterns, when they turned away, when they checked their phones, when the cameras rotated. A wealthy guest carelessly set his keycard on a nearby table while he joined in mocking her. Amara's hand moved swiftly as she reached for another piece of broken glass. The card vanished into her sleeve. No one noticed. They were too busy enjoying her shame. She stood slowly, a small cut bleeding on her palm. A guard waved her toward the service exit. She turned to leave, her heart steady despite what was coming next. Then a sharp voice rang out behind her. "You there, stop." Every muscle in her body tensed. She turned slowly to face the guard approaching her. The guard stepped toward her, his hand moving to his radio. Amara's face remained calm, but her mind raced through escape routes. Then a cold, commanding voice cut through the tension. "Leave her alone." Adrian Cole himself stood at the top of the marble staircase. His presence silenced the room instantly. The guard stopped. "Sir, I was only..." "She's had enough tonight. Let her go." The guard stepped back immediately. Amara quickly moved toward the service corridor, but she could feel Adrian's eyes following her every step. He didn't look at her with pity like the others had. He looked at her with curiosity, studying her as though she were a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. Like he sensed something beneath the surface that didn't belong. Amara disappeared through the door, but his gaze lingered in her mind. Amara moved swiftly through the maze of service corridors. She knew this mansion's layout perfectly. Weeks of careful preparation had ensured that. At the end of a dim hallway, she found what she was looking for. A hidden elevator, exactly where her intelligence had said it would be. She used the stolen keycard and called it down. The doors opened with a soft chime. Inside was a single button marked, "Penthouse." That's where the vault was. That's where the document she needed was hidden. She pressed the button confidently. Nothing happened. A red light blinked above a small panel. The display read, "Biometric access required." Amara's jaw tightened. This was an unexpected layer of security her sources hadn't mentioned. Footsteps echoed down the hallway behind her. Someone was coming. She had only seconds to decide, hide or retreat. Then she saw him. Adrian Cole, walking directly toward the elevator. Amara pressed herself flat against the shadowed wall beside the elevator, barely breathing. Adrian approached, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in clipped tones about business deals and negotiations. Without breaking stride, he placed his thumb on the biometric scanner. The elevator doors slid open. He stepped inside. And in the split second before the doors closed, Amara slipped in behind him like a ghost. She pressed herself into the far corner where the lighting created just enough shadow to hide. The elevator had mirrors on 3 walls, but the dim emergency lighting worked in her favor. Adrian ended his call and pocketed his phone. The elevator began rising smoothly. Then suddenly, it lurched to a violent stop. The lights flickered. An automated voice announced, "System malfunction. Please stand by." Adrian sighed in frustration. And Amara held her breath, frozen mere inches away from him in the darkness. They were trapped together in tense silence. Every second felt like an hour. Amara stood perfectly still in the darkened corner, so close to Adrian she could hear his steady breathing. He pulled out his phone to call maintenance. While his attention was focused on the screen, Amara carefully studied the biometric panel. His thumbprint was still visible on the glass surface, natural oils from his skin catching the faint emergency lighting. She angled her phone silently and photographed it. Suddenly the elevator hummed back to life. Adrian turned sharply, as though sensing something wrong. In the mirrored walls surrounding them, Amara's reflection was barely visible, just a shadow that shouldn't exist. He stepped closer, squinting into the corner where she stood. His hand reached out toward her hiding place. The elevator doors opened with a cheerful chime, and he hesitated, looking back once more before stepping out into the hallway. Amara finally allowed herself to breathe. The penthouse floor was dimly lit and silent as a tomb. Amara waited until Adrian's footsteps faded completely before slipping out of the elevator. Using the photograph and a special film she'd brought, she carefully created a temporary fingerprint overlay. It took 3 attempts, but finally the biometric scanner accepted it. The vault door unlocked with a soft click. Inside was a small room lined with filing cabinets and a sophisticated digital safe. Amara moved quickly through the files, searching for the specific document her employers had sent her to retrieve. But as she sorted through the folders, something stopped her cold. A file with her real name on it. Not Amara, the name she used now. Her birth name. The one she had buried years ago and never spoken aloud since. It was stamped, classified, in bright red letters. How did Adrian Cole have this? Amara's hands trembled as she opened the classified file. Inside were photographs of her as a child. Records tracking her movements across different cities. Locations where she'd been stationed. Aliases she'd used over the years. Someone had been watching her. Tracking her. For years. Her blood turned ice cold. This mission wasn't just about stealing a document anymore. This had become deeply personal. She grabbed the main document, the one she'd been sent here to steal, and shoved it inside her jacket. But she also took the file bearing her real name. She needed answers. She needed to know who was watching her and why. Footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Close. Coming directly toward the vault. Amara's pulse spiked. She frantically scanned the room for another exit. There, a service door marked Emergency Access Only. She ran for it just as she heard the vault door beginning to open behind her. Amara slipped through the emergency exit and pulled it shut just as Adrian entered the vault room. She pressed her ear against the door, listening carefully to every sound. She heard him stop. Heard him move toward the safe. Heard the exact moment he realized something crucial was missing. No. His voice was sharp with alarm and disbelief. He moved quickly, checking what had been taken. Then she heard him curse under his breath, a rare loss of composure. There was a long pause. Then the sound of something being carefully picked up, broken glass scraping across metal. Blood, he muttered to himself. Amara glanced down at her hand. The cut from earlier, from the champagne glass. She'd left a trace of herself behind. She heard him pull out his phone urgently. Security. Lock down the entire building immediately. Someone's been in my private vault. Amara didn't wait to hear more. She ran into the darkness. By the time morning light touched the city, Amara had vanished completely. No trace. No records. Gone like smoke in wind. Adrian stood in his office, exhausted and furious beyond measure. Security footage showed nothing useful. The cameras had mysteriously malfunctioned during the precise window when the theft occurred. Find the maid, he ordered his head of security. The one from last night. The woman who dropped the champagne glass. His security chief returned an hour later, his face pale and confused in a way Adrian had never seen. Sir, we have a serious problem. What kind of problem? She doesn't exist in our systems. No employment record. No application on file. No identification. No signed contract. Nothing. Adrian stared at him in disbelief. That's impossible. I saw her with my own eyes. So did everyone at the party. But according to every database we maintain, she was never actually employed here. Adrian's jaw clenched tight. Whoever she was a ghost. And she'd stolen something that could completely destroy him. Adrian became obsessed with finding her. He hired the best private investigators money could buy. He pulled in favors from powerful contacts. He traced every possible lead, no matter how small. But every path led to nothing. The woman who had called herself Amara simply didn't exist in any official database. No birth certificate. No social security number. No digital footprint anywhere. She was a phantom walking among the living. Weeks crawled by. Then months. Finally, Adrian received a brief report from one of his most trusted investigators. The message was urgent and the tone deeply unsettling. Stop your investigation immediately. You're asking questions that will get you killed. Whatever she took from you, let it go. Forget she ever existed. This is your only warning. The report was completely unsigned. Adrian crumpled the paper and hurled it across his office. He couldn't let this go. Not just because of the stolen document, but because of her eyes, the way she'd looked at him when he defended her that night. Like she'd been expecting something entirely different from him. Months slowly turned into a full year. Adrian's empire, once considered completely untouchable, began showing cracks in its foundation. Major contracts fell through at the last possible moment. Long-standing partnerships dissolved without clear explanation. Investors suddenly pulled out their money, citing vague concerns. At first, it seemed like simple bad luck. But the pattern was too precise, too calculated. Someone was systematically targeting him using insider knowledge, details that only someone with access to his most private files would possess. Then he saw something that made his blood run cold. On a leaked internal document that was circulating among his competitors, there was a small notation in the bottom corner. Just 2 letters. AV. Adrian stared at those initials for a long time. She was still out there somewhere. And she was methodically destroying everything he'd built, piece by carefully chosen piece. But why wait an entire year? Why not use the stolen document immediately after taking it? What was she really planning? A new name began appearing frequently in the business world's headlines. Amara Vale. She seemed to rise from absolute nowhere, a brilliant, ruthless CEO who dominated every market she entered. Her company absorbed smaller competitors, outmaneuvered established industry giants, and crushed anyone foolish enough to stand in her path. Wild rumors swirled around her mysterious origins. Some claimed she came from old European money. Others insisted she'd built her empire from nothing through pure genius. Nobody knew the real truth about her past. Adrian watched from an increasing distance as her name appeared more and more frequently in financial news. Something about her felt strangely familiar, but he couldn't quite place why. Then, at a high-profile industry conference, he finally saw her face clearly. She stood on stage delivering a powerful keynote speech with absolute confidence and command. And Adrian's entire world stopped moving. It was her. The maid from that night. But now she stood above everyone in that vast room, including him. The conference was filled with the same elite crowd who had mocked and humiliated her that terrible night. But now they hung on her every word, desperate for even a moment of her valuable attention. Adrian watched from the back of the room, unable to look away from her transformation. After her speech ended to thunderous applause, they found themselves face to face at the private reception. She smiled at him, cold, knowing, and supremely confident. "Adrian Cole," she said smoothly, as though greeting an old friend. "It's been quite a while, hasn't it? You remember me?" "Of course I do. You defended me once, when no one else would." Her eyes glittered with something dangerous and unreadable. "That was unexpectedly kind of you." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. What exactly did you take from me that night? She tilted her head, genuinely amused. Take. I prefer to think of it as collecting what was rightfully owed to me. This isn't some kind of game. Isn't it? She leaned in closer. I took something very important from you, Adrian. And I've been using it extremely carefully ever since. She walked away gracefully, leaving him frozen in place, his mind racing. Adrian's empire continued its steady, inevitable collapse. Piece by piece, everything he had spent years building fell apart before his eyes. Stock prices plummeted without warning. Key executives resigned suddenly. Legal investigations opened into his company's finances from multiple directions. He knew with absolute certainty that she was orchestrating all of it. Every calculated move was too informed, too surgically precise. The document she'd stolen wasn't just potentially damaging. It was apparently a complete map of every questionable deal, every corrupt partnership, every dark secret his company had carefully buried over the years. And she was wielding it like a master surgeon's scalpel, cutting away his power with terrifying precision. Then one quiet evening, he received a simple message on his private phone. Meet me tomorrow. Come alone. We need to talk about the truth. It was from her, of course. Adrian stared at the message for a long time. This could easily be an elaborate trap. She could destroy him completely with a single move. But he desperately needed to understand the truth. He typed back. Where and when? They met in a private room at a discreet downtown hotel. No witnesses. No recording devices. Just truth between them. Amara sat across from him, perfectly calm and composed. Why are you doing this to me? Adrian asked directly. You want the complete truth? She leaned back thoughtfully. I was sent to steal that document from you. That night at your mansion, the broken glass, the public humiliation, all of it was carefully planned from the beginning. His jaw tightened painfully. So everything between us was just an elaborate lie. Not everything. You defending me wasn't part of anyone's plan. That was real. And that's supposed to actually matter now? She smiled faintly, almost sadly. It mattered more than you could possibly know. She paused, choosing her words carefully. I succeeded that night. I took exactly what I was sent for. But I didn't use it immediately. Not for a very long time. Why not? Because I needed to truly understand who you really were beneath all the wealth and power. He stared at her, genuinely confused. What does that even mean? She stood slowly and walked to the window. Because that document I stole. It isn't just about you, Adrian. Amara gazed out at the glittering city sprawled below them. I had everything I needed to completely destroy you over a year ago. I could have exposed you publicly, ruined your reputation, ended your entire empire in a single devastating day. Then why didn't you do it? Because I needed to be absolutely certain first. She turned to face him directly. I needed to know if you were truly like them. Like the people who mocked me. The ones who built their fortunes on deliberate cruelty and systematic corruption. Adrian stood, his voice rising with frustration. And what exactly did you discover? That you were part of something much larger and darker than you even understood. A network you didn't fully comprehend. She pulled out a thick folder from her briefcase and set it carefully on the table between them. The document I stole contains a complete list of every member of a hidden network. Powerful elites who manipulate entire markets, destroy innocent lives without remorse, and protect each other ruthlessly. You were connected to them, Adrian. But you were never actually my real target. Adrian opened the folder with trembling hands that he couldn't quite control. Names. Dozens upon dozens of them. High-ranking politicians, powerful CEOs, old money families that controlled entire industries. Some names he recognized immediately. Some he'd even worked directly with. And then he saw it, buried deep in the complex web of financial transactions. His own name, clearly linked to deals he had never personally authorized or even known about. I didn't know about most of this, he said quietly, his voice hollow. I believe you. Amara's voice was softer now, almost gentle. You were useful to them in your ambition. Young, hungry, desperate for success. They fed you opportunities and made you truly believe you'd earned them through merit alone. But you were just another tool they were using. Adrian looked up at her, his face pale. Who are these people really? The people who humiliated me that night at your party? Every single one of them was part of this network. They were testing me, watching carefully to see if I would break under pressure. She smiled bitterly. But I didn't break. And now I've spent years systematically dismantling their network, piece by careful piece. Then why destroy me too? Because you were connected to them. And because I needed you to fall far enough to finally see the complete truth. Adrian sank heavily into his chair, the crushing weight of it all pressing down on him like a physical force. So this entire time, you've been waging a secret war against them. Yes. A very patient, very careful war. And my complete downfall was just acceptable collateral damage to you. Amara nodded slowly. I'm genuinely sorry for that part. But it was absolutely necessary. You had to lose everything to finally be free of their invisible control. He laughed bitterly, without any real humor. Free. I have nothing left at all now. You have something far more valuable than wealth. You have the truth. And you're still alive and breathing. Many who stood against this network aren't so fortunate. Adrian studied her face closely. You're actually afraid of them, aren't you? I'm realistic about the danger they represent. She sat back down across from him. I've successfully taken down dozens of them. But there's someone positioned above them all. Someone who originally built this entire network, who controls it all from complete shadows. Who is it? I don't know their identity yet. But they remain completely untouched by everything I've done. And nothing I've accomplished, nothing you've lost, will matter at all if I can't finally reach them. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. And Adrian. They know I'm still alive and coming for them. The next morning, Adrian woke to urgent news alerts flooding his phone from every direction. His face was plastered everywhere. Arrested on serious charges. Accused of major financial crimes he absolutely didn't commit. Fabricated evidence had been expertly planted and strategically spread across every media outlet imaginable. He was being deliberately framed with devastating efficiency. His panicked lawyers called repeatedly. His bank accounts were completely frozen. His assets were being systematically seized by authorities. Someone was moving against him with terrifying speed and ruthless precision. Adrian knew immediately this wasn't Amara's doing. This was the puppet master she'd warned him about. The one pulling all the hidden strings. Hours later, Amara received her own message. Simple. Direct. Absolutely chilling. Return the complete document. Destroy all copies immediately. Disappear forever. Or Adrian Cole dies in prison before this week ends. The message was unsigned. But she knew exactly who had sent it. The person at the very top of everything. The one controlling all the others. She stared at the glowing screen, her hands trembling despite her training. Everything she'd worked for. Years of careful planning. All of it, leading to this single moment of impossible choice. But now she had to decide what she valued more. Amara sat alone in her penthouse office, staring out at the sprawling city far below. She'd spent years methodically preparing for this confrontation. Years building her empire from nothing, gathering real power, dismantling the network piece by strategic piece. But now the choice before her was brutally clear. Finish her carefully planned revenge and let Adrian be destroyed, or save him and risk losing everything she'd built. He didn't truly deserve her help. He'd been complicit in the system, even if unknowingly. He'd directly benefited from the same corrupt structure that had tried to break her spirit. But he'd also defended her when he absolutely didn't have to. He'd shown her a genuine sliver of humanity in a world built on calculated cruelty. And maybe, just maybe, she'd seen something in him actually worth saving from the darkness. She made her final decision. She wouldn't finish her revenge. Not yet. Not like this. She would save him first. But not for his sake alone. For the truth itself. She sent a single message back. I'm coming. Don't do anything stupid while you wait. And she walked directly into the trap, knowing exactly what she was doing. The meeting location was an abandoned warehouse on the city's desolate edge. Amara arrived alone, exactly as instructed. A figure waited calmly in the deep shadows, tall, radiating absolute control and dangerous confidence. You actually came, the voice said. A woman's voice. Smooth as silk and cold as winter ice. Amara stepped forward boldly. Let Adrian go free. Now. Return my document first. I don't have it with me here. The woman laughed, genuinely amused. Of course you do. You would never risk coming here without proper leverage in your possession. Amara reached carefully into her jacket and pulled out a small USB drive. Everything's here. All the copies. Every single piece of evidence I gathered. The mysterious woman finally stepped into the dim light. Amara's breath caught painfully in her throat. It was someone she recognized. Someone from her own carefully buried past. You. Amara whispered in shock. The woman smiled with cold satisfaction. Did you really believe you were working independently all these years? Did you honestly think your skills, your training, your entire carefully constructed life just happened by chance? Amara's world tilted violently beneath her feet. The woman circled her slowly, deliberately, like a predator savoring the hunt before the kill. You were specifically chosen, Amara. Long before you ever stepped foot inside that mansion. We trained you from childhood. Shaped you into exactly what we needed. Pointed you directly at our enemies and simply let you loose to destroy them. Amara's voice shook despite her training. That's a complete lie. Is it really? Think back carefully. Every mission you completed. Every target you eliminated. Every skill you learned. Who taught you everything? Who gave you purpose when you had nothing? Painful images flashed rapidly through Amara's mind. Her childhood in the facility. The academy where they trained her. The handlers who molded her into a weapon. They'd told her she was special. That she possessed a rare gift. That she would change the world for the better. But it was all carefully constructed lies. She'd been deliberately engineered. Controlled like a puppet. Adrian was meant to be your final test, the woman continued coldly. We wanted to see if you'd complete the mission perfectly, even if it meant destroying someone who had shown you genuine kindness. Amara's hands clenched into tight fists. You wanted me to become exactly like you. And you almost did. You were so very close to crossing that final line. Adrian suddenly appeared from the shadows, hands bound but clearly alive. He'd been listening to every word of this revelation. Amara met his eyes directly. There was no anger there anymore. Only deep understanding and something that might have been forgiveness. We can end this nightmare, Amara said firmly, turning back to face the woman. Right now. Tonight. I have evidence that goes far beyond what you think I possess. I've been preparing for this exact moment much longer than you know. The woman's confident smile finally faded. You're bluffing desperately. Am I? Amara pulled out her phone with steady hands. One single press of this button, and every piece of evidence, the document, the complete network, your true identity, everything, goes instantly public. Every major news outlet. Every government agency worldwide. Completely irreversible. The woman's face hardened like stone. You'd destroy yourself too in the process. I'm willing to make that sacrifice for the truth. Are you? For the first time, genuine fear flickered visibly across the woman's face. Amara pressed the button firmly. Somewhere across the city, Secure servers activated automatically. Encrypted files began uploading. The complete truth started spreading like wildfire across the internet. Adrian watched as his empire, and the corrupt network that had controlled it, burned down together in flames. The aftermath was absolute chaos that lasted for months. Arrests happened daily. Investigations opened worldwide. Empires crumbled overnight like houses of cards. Adrian was completely cleared of all fabricated charges. The planted evidence was publicly exposed as fraud. But his reputation was still permanently damaged. His vast wealth, gone forever. His once mighty power, completely erased. He stood outside the courthouse steps, watching the world continue moving on without him. Amora appeared quietly beside him, looking tired but finally free. "Why did you actually save me?" he asked softly. "Because a long time ago, someone saved me when they didn't have to. I didn't realize it was you until very recently." He looked at her, genuinely confused now. She pulled out an old, faded photograph from her pocket. A young girl, maybe 7 years old. A man standing protectively beside her, his face partially hidden. "You don't remember, do you? Years before the mansion. Before any of this began. I was just a child, caught in the wrong place at the worst time. You found me. You helped me escape. You didn't have to, but you did anyway." Adrian stared at the photograph intently. A distant, half-forgotten memory slowly surfaced. Blurry and incomplete, but real. "That was actually you?" She nodded slowly. "Our connection was never accidental. It was always meant to be." She handed him the last remaining copy of the document, the only evidence left in existence. "Destroy it completely. Choose freedom over control." And then she walked away into the crowd, disappearing one final time. The maid they humiliated didn't just rise above them. She rewrote the entire game. And even a fallen billionaire was left wondering if he ever truly knew her at all.